What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Frank, the Cuban Flash, Sanchez. Frank Sanchez says that Chris Arreola is next. Hopes this win leads to a big fight. Heavyweight contender Frank Sanchez is very pleased with his reunion with veteran trainer Eddie Reynoso and Team Canelo. After almost a year apart, the Cuban giant and the Mexican professor are back together at the San Diego facility to resume their search for a world title in a new chapter that began with the recent knockout victory of Daniel Martz. The Martz bout was a fight we took to stay active because we have a fight against Chris Arreola and other fighters down the line on the horizon. We took the fight, we did it, and it came out perfect. It came out the perfect knockout. I did exactly what my managers and coach asked me to do, Sanchez told George Ebro. Sanchez explains that the fight against Arreola is the next test on his path, and he hopes an impressive win will lead to a much bigger opportunity. At the moment, the date and location for Arreola has not been finalized. He said, yes, the Arreola fight is already something agreed upon. We are waiting for them to give us a date for that fight, but let's hope it's one of many more to come until we can get closer to a world title. Big things are coming after Arreola, perhaps the Chinese man Zhilei Zhang, who beat Joe Joyce. We're going after everyone up there. We just have to wait for the opportunity, said Sanchez. Let me counterpunch. I think Frank is on the right path. I don't really necessarily care for him to take leftovers from Andy Ruiz. In fact, I would prefer him to fight Andy Ruiz, right? Because that would be a better fight, Frank Sanchez and Andy Ruiz versus Frank Sanchez and Arreola. But Arreola is a game opponent. You know, he is an Olympian himself with the pedigree. He did have a pretty decent performance against Ruiz, surprisingly, because we thought, that smaller, thinner Ruiz was going to take Arreola out. But in fact, Arreola showed him what he was all about. Bars. He dropped him in the second round, hurt him in the third, and battled him throughout the rest of that fight. And then the scorecards were left looking stupid, which I disagree on. So, fair play to Chris Arreola, and I think at this part of his life, bittersweet, he's actually taking better care of himself. He's not as fat. He's more lean. It's like he's learned some wisdom in there. So he probably can give Frank Sanchez a run for his money, simply because we remember before the Martz fight, we seen him take on, I believe it was Juan Negro, I think it was, the Puerto Rican fighter. No, Carlos Negron, I think it was. And he looked fat. Frank looked chubby. Frank looked like he was out of gas. And like he still had the explosiveness, but the explosiveness was somewhat delayed. Okay, and then that's what I saw in Frank. And I'm like, wait, this Frank can get beat by somebody that really wants to win, somebody with better skill than Carlos Negron. You know what I mean? So he has to be careful. I know he's, welcoming a child into the world. And I know when you have somebody knocked up and you're conceiving with somebody, you kind of get bigger, you get thicker, you know what I mean? And I think that's what happened to Frank, but, pay that no mind, Frank. You need to go and get that shreddiness, that thinness back so you can be more elusive, so you can box and dance circles around Chris Arreola like you did guys like Efe Ajagba and Joey DeWaco. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Frank Sanchez taking on Chris Arreola for his next opponent. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace!